This missile was supposed to keep the West in fear for many years and become a truly invincible weapon of Russia.
This missile, with its advanced technology, has an unlimited range.
The key to its success was supposed to be a unique technology that even the USA could not implement.
Simply fantastic.
In reality, however, another of Putin's nuclear toys failed to scare anyone. And so far, the only ones it has destroyed are the developers who still haven't conducted successful tests.
In total, they believe that 7 people died. Of these, 5 were developers and 2 were test site employees.
The nuclear missile Burevestnik, the very one that was supposed to turn the United Kingdom into radioactive ash, has become the biggest failure of Russian defense in recent years and a colossal embarrassment for Putin personally. What was it intended for? What unique qualities was it supposed to have, and why? Engineers, having failed more than 10 tests, still cannot achieve a successful launch. The miracle missile? About this, right now in Arsenal. The nuclear missile Burevestnik is perhaps the flagship of all Russian no-analog developments, because there truly is nothing like it anywhere. The first time this missile was heard of was on March 1st, 2018. It was about this missile that Putin pompously spoke before the State Duma more than 6 years ago.
A low-flying, stealthy cruise missile carrying a nuclear warhead with practically unlimited range, an unpredictable track. The flight time and ability to bypass interception lines make it invulnerable to all existing and prospective systems, both missile defense and air defense. The results of the conducted tests have given us the opportunity to begin creating a fundamentally new type of strategic weapon equipped with high-power nuclear munitions.
Since then, the missile has remained merely an embodiment of Kremlin animators. However, it cannot be said that the idea itself was bad, experts believe. The fact is that Russian engineers simply turned out to be incapable of this. After all, the main feature of the Burevestnik was supposed to be its engine. And in this area, since the times of the USSR, Ukraine has always been at the forefront.
The missile is launched and accelerated using a conventional turbojet engine. After acceleration, the nuclear engine is activated and it has a mini reactor on board. And after acceleration, air begins to enter the engine. It heats up and is expelled through the nozzle, thus creating heated, extremely highly heated air, and thus creating jet thrust.
Apart from the engine, there was practically nothing else that needed to be developed, was needed. The missile body itself and the warhead was a long-standing Soviet project, unfortunately known to all Ukrainians under the name KH-101.
This is essentially a missile of relatively small dimensions. It is 12 meters long. After being released, it consists essentially of a conventional solid fuel rocket booster and missiles from ramjet solid fuel rocket booster and missiles from ramjet primary with an air-breathing jet engine. In shape, it has therefore, in cross-section, the form of an ellipse approximately 1 by 1.5 meters.
But in its standard configuration, the missile's range is about 5,500 kilometers. Quite a lot, yet the Kremlin decided that it wasn't enough for them. And they came up with the Burevestnik. Now, engineers are working on the task of assembling a mini nuclear reactor, which is supposed to become the new engine of the missile and provide it with fantastic capabilities.
In fact, this missile has an unlimited range that is, while cruise missiles can fly for several hours, a missile with a nuclear reactor can literally fly for days. It can essentially circle the planet several times.
It should be noted here that boldly categorizing the Burevestnik as having no analogs is possible because civilized countries simply abandon this idea, replacing it with safer alternatives.
The Americans also developed similar types of advanced missiles with a nuclear engine with a nuclear power plant, But then they abandoned them too because these developments were recognized as inherently dangerous, and the level of technology was not advanced enough to allow for the safe use of these reactions.
But the dangers did not scare the Russians, of course, either during development or in further use. It is worth noting that even if everything had gone without incidents, the Burevestnik itself is clearly a technology from the past.
The problem is that a cruise missile flies at low altitudes. There were various reports in the press that the same Burevestnik could fly at altitudes from several tens of meters to several kilometers. The problem is that it is equipped with a ramjet engine. This, again, is information from open sources. Incidentally, Russian media have also written about this. And so it flies at a low altitude and leaves behind a radioactive exhaust.
That is, along the entire flight path, the Burevestnik will leave radioactive contamination.
In fact, it's a flying mini Chernobyl. A flying Chernobyl, right? Because after the release, this so-called as anticipated radioactive exhaust, yes, it contaminates the atmosphere.
But naturally, there were no incidents without mishaps. The main one occurred in 2019, during the testing of a nuclear engine at a range in the Arkhangelsk region.
Various types of meteorological stations. In this area, that is meant, foreign ones recorded such a sharp spike in radiation, after which several people were taken to the Arkhangelsk Regional Hospital. Some of them died there. In total, it is believed that 7 people died. Of them, 5 were developers and 2 were range staff. And when they were brought to this hospital, they were taken there, naked in bags.
After which, everyone collectively signed non-disclosure agreements. And the tests continued, with the same negative success.
There was a story about how they launched this missile. It fell into the Barents Sea. Then they cordoned off the area, allowing no one in. They searched the seabed, trying to find the remnants of this missile, lest, heaven forbid, the Americans discover the terrible secret of it. The nuclear engine, the nuclear power unit.
According to analysts' estimates, there have been more than a dozen or so tests for the Burevestnik project, and not a single one has been successful, each time leaving a radioactive trace and endangering civilians.
The project is extremely dangerous, literally for all of humanity and primarily for the residents of Russia, because they are testing this contraption literally right under their windows.
But naturally, the Kremlin cannot be stopped by calls for safety. The tests continue time and again in the hope that the doomsday weapon will eventually take off. After all, the main goal, Ati-Ikon of Burevestnik, is not to strike territories, but to influence the minds of Western officials.
Obviously, they are trying to revive the topic of nuclear threats. It's unlikely that anyone will take seriously some 100th or 101st threat that hasn't been carried out. So they decided to play it this way, conduct a test, thereby showing on one hand that they de facto have a resource they can use, and on the other hand, to demonstrate the seriousness of their intentions.
Speaking of the practicality of using the Burevestnik, engineers agree that this weapon is certainly formidable, but quite unreliable.
This whole story, theoretically possible, and implementable LoDa is quite complex in practice because all the processes involved are very unstable.
At the same time, some design solutions directly contradict each other. Simply put, even the most tested and, heaven forbid, mass-produced Burevestnik can always malfunction.
The presence of a nuclear installation on board has a sharply negative impact on the missile's navigation system. So it turns out that it is clear. Determine where it will fall or where it will hit the target is also difficult because a failure is possible at any moment.
At the same time, the practical application of the Burevestnik is quite doubtful, experts believe. Even with a nuclear engine, the missile does not cease to be a cruise missile, and for Western air defense systems, it has long been a very easy target.
Even if this missile has unlimited range, it still won't be able to break through serious air defenses because it has a low speed. It is a subsonic missile. If it tries to strike either Europe or the United States, it will be immediately detected by radar surveillance aircraft and shot down by any available anti-aircraft missile system along the way.
It is indeed likely understood in the Kremlin as well, which is why some analysts believe that the Burevestnik was initially a venture sold by Putin to secure billions of budget rubles. And there is indeed a very high probability that this wonder missile will remain only in the cartoon that the Kremlin dictator is so proud of.
The country is unable to develop a smartphone. The country is unable to produce decent cars. Not necessarily super luxury class, but at least a normal one that can travel 10,000 kilometers without breaking down. And yet it wants to develop a cruise missile with a nuclear power unit?
But I beg you, if you like this video, then don't forget to give it a like and be sure to subscribe to our new Arsenal channel. The link is in the description below the video.